My name is Jake, welcome to the channel. In today's video, I want to talk about a buy and hold forever stock with a 20% dividend CAGR. 20% is massive. Depending on if you have a long or a short-term time horizon, I believe that this company should be on your radar, and I could see a case where every person, every dividend investor could consider owning this company in their portfolio if you choose to own individual companies. So we're going to talk about this company in today's video. For those of you that follow the channel, I'm going to be traveling here these next couple of weeks. So today I am in Austin, Texas, where my wife and I live. When you're watching this video, we are going to be traveling in Germany. And so I was thinking to myself, well, do I want to go 2 or 3 weeks without creating a video here on YouTube? Or do I want to pre-record different videos before we travel? I thought, you know what, I'm just going to pre-record the video and I'll release it while I'm in Germany. My wife is from Northern Germany. We're going to go visit her family. So that's why I'm pre-recording the video. In today's video, we're going to talk about the company American Tower. American Tower is in my real estate portfolio here that I have in M1 Finance. This is the portfolio that you can see here, my top holdings. This is as of July 3rd when I'm recording this video. I have 12 different companies in my portfolio. One is an ETF, and the remaining 11 are individual companies. So I own companies like Good from Gladstone, MPW, Omega Healthcare, Realty Income, all the way down to companies like DLR. I shared an entire video on DLR, on American Tower. This is the company that we're going to be talking about in today's video. As I mentioned, I believe everyone, every dividend investor could consider owning American Tower, and the percentage of the allocation would really depend on your time horizon. Because American Tower is growing at such a fast pace, this is more of a long-term investment. So if you're in your 20s or your 30s and you have a 20 plus time horizon, this company should be on your radar because this is a really high quality dividend growth stock. So in the video today, we're going to cover a couple of topics. We're going to first talk about understanding infrastructure REITs. We're going to then do a deep dive into American Tower. We're going to review the dividend metrics. We're going to review the fundamentals. We're going to do a portfolio overview of this company, meaning we're going to look at the individual whole, where they have locations, all of the things that you would want to know as an investor in this company, in this business. And then lastly, we'll wrap it up with how does American Tower compare with the S&P 500? And spoiler, American Tower's doing really, really well. They're crushing the S&P 500. But more to come with that at the end of the video. I'm really excited to talk about this company because it is really one of my favorite REITs that I own in my portfolio, and really just overall one of my favorite dividend growth companies out there. But if you've been investing in this company over the last couple of years, you're really doing very well because the company has done very well these last couple of years, and it's like really just winning at life. If you're investing into American Tower, you're winning at life, and it probably looks a little like this. Oh my gosh, the guy on the lawn with the lawnmower. Oh man, I got a huge smile on my face when I saw that. Okay, all right, so let's take a look at infrastructure REITs. Now, if you're not sure with what a REIT is, I will leave in the description below a few links to couple different videos that I've created on, what is a REIT, how are they taxed, all those fun stuff that you need to know when it comes to investing into real estate investment trusts. But an infrastructure REIT is a company that invests into infrastructure. So for example, cell towers or telecom towers are very well known for infrastructure REITs. It could also be energy pipelines. It really has to do with infrastructure. And the company that we're talking about today in American Tower actually just recently acquired a data center REIT in CoreSite. So I think, there may be a reconsideration of how American Tower is labeled. It may no longer be an infrastructure REIT, but rather a diversified REIT that is invested into or owns and operates different buildings or structures in different sectors. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a reclassification of American Tower into a diversified REIT into the future. So let's go ahead on over to allreits.com. Allreits, I will leave a link in the description below. This is a great website. It's a free website to analyze real estate investment trusts. This is kind of my go-to website when I analyze real estate investment trusts. So with infrastructure, there's 7 infrastructure REITs out there on the market today. And when looking at how American Tower compares to others, there's a few things that I want to take a look at. The first thing that I want to look at is their price to earnings. This would be their, your PE ratio, but this is their funds from operation. This is the FFO by the the price. So this is the valuation of the company, and you can see here American Tower is trading at over a 25 times FFO. So not the most it's a little bit overvalued. It's not the cheapest company on the market today. Okay, and so when looking at the market cap, American Tower is the largest infrastructure REIT out there, and in fact, it is the largest REIT altogether. So when you look at the different REITs, I think there's a little over 200 publicly traded REITs here in the US, and American Tower is the largest by market cap. All right, now let's take a look at American Tower alone here. You can see the ranking here from Allreits, the score that they get. It looks like they do very well on the different metrics here with their FFO growth, their dividend growth, the payout ratio, but it looks like their debt here is where they're hit a little bit. Now this could be with funding the acquisition from CoreSite. I'm not 100% sure why the debt is doing poorly there. That's something that you could dive into and look at if you're interested in investing into American Tower. A couple of things that are interesting for me. Once again, the market cap is really, really high. This is a large company. It's trading at a pretty pricey valuation. Now, I could see this company is probably the best real estate investment trust out there. There's probably not a better REIT out there that is set up for growth, dividend growth, and just so well positioned for the future. Now, you could argue and say, well, Realty Income, yeah, but Realty Income is operating with retail, right? And I see there's more growth potential with infrastructure and with American Tower than there is with retail. And that's why I say American Tower is set up more for success than, for example, Realty Income. But that's, you could debate that all day, but that's just my personal opinion. Given the current price and the valuation, it is overvalued. This company is trading at a premium. This is not me saying, hey, everybody go and buy American Tower. I would never do that. One thing that I would say, though, is if you're interested in this company, keep track of American Tower and see the price action. See if you can get American Tower at a 20 times. If you see a pullback in the market, this is one of those companies that you want to have on your watch list. You don't want to just go and buy at the peak because there's usually a reversion to the mean, and you'll see that retract, you'll see the price come down. It's just kind of how it is with growth stocks. But I think if you can get this company at a fair valuation, that is one of the best things that you can do. Now, obviously that you could say that with every company, but because this company is such a high quality company, it demands a higher valuation. And that's just how the market is. Okay. A couple of things that I think is really interesting is you see the dividend growth. American Tower has not been paying a dividend for as long as some other companies. I think they've been paying for 10 years. This is the thing that's so incredible. The dividend growth rate is incredibly high, and it really depends on when you're looking at it. If you're looking at it for 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, it's massive. I think the 10 year is over 30%. And I think the 5%, is right around 20%. So a really, really high quality, hyper growth dividend growth stock. And some other things that we can look at here, and we'll take a look at this in a second here on their website. You can see the diversification by country. I really like this about a REIT, that there is international exposure. They are in developed as well as in developing countries. I see that as a very big positive as a long-term investor. Okay, so those are a couple of things. If you want to check this website out, I'll leave a link in the description below. You can check it out. All right, now I want to give you a very vanilla description of what this company is. This is from their annual shareholder meeting here from April of this year. And I want to just read this off for a second, and then I want to touch on a few things. So American Tower is a leading independent owner, operator, and developer of wireless and broadcast communications real estate. Our global portfolio includes 220,000 communication sites. Over 43,000 of American Tower's communication sites are in the United States and Canada, and nearly 177,000 communication sites, as well as certain other property interests, are located internationally. Our business model allows for multiple customers to lease vertical space on a tower for their communications equipment, creating a reoccurring long-term revenue stream. I love that. We also provide customized solutions through our in-building systems, outdoor and distributed antenna systems, and other right-of-way options, managed rooftops, and services that speed network deployment. Additionally, in 2021, through the acquisition of CoreSite Realty, this is the CoreSite acquisition, we added more than 20 data center facilities to our portfolio of data center facilities across 10 United States markets. Okay, so the interesting thing about CoreSite, now when we go and we look at the bull and the bear case, a lot of bears say, hey, this is a great growth opportunity for American Tower. The bears kind of say, well, there's not a lot of synergies between the two products or the two businesses, but I see this as an absolute positive. Okay, and so when you look at their 2021 business highlights, they're growing their top and bottom line, they're adding additional sites, they're growing through acquisition, they're growing organically, and one of the things that we'll get to in a second, their economies of scale is really taking place with the different technologies that they have in place with the different telecom units. You'll see that here in a second. It's just overall a really, really great business model. And the thing that's key for me as a long-term investor, let's highlight this here, creating a reoccurring long-term revenue stream. I absolutely love this. Everybody talks about Netflix being, hey, this, or utilities being a great business model, reoccurring revenue. With cell towers, this is like that on steroids. And the switching costs are a little bit higher. And so you're not going to have huge fluctuations in contracts with a business like American Tower and with cell towers. All right, let's take just a second here and let's take a look at their top property revenue, their Q1 2022 results versus 2021. Total revenue grew by 24%. This is a massive company. This is the largest REIT in the world. And it grew by 24%. This is incredible. This is a really big deal, everybody. Really, really big deal. And they're growing their dividend CAGR by 20%. Just incredible. Another thing that I wanted to highlight here is their funds from operation. They're growing their funds from operation at a respectable rate, just under 7%. So they're growing their total revenue, they're growing their funds from operation, and they're growing it not only organically through their wireless business, but also through acquisition. And you won't see those acquisition benefits to their margins and to their revenue growth and their adjusted funds from operations until here next year. So here for 2022. So that's something that's going to be really exciting, where you're going to see this massive company continue to grow. All right, now let's take just one last thing here. If you wanted to research this for yourself, this is on Seeking Alpha. This is on the income statement here for American Tower. The one thing that I want to take a look at, I can't harp on this enough. You can look at everything here and you can kind of get lost in the weeds. The thing that I'm looking at is the adjusted funds from operation. Now, FFO, this is funds from operation. This is a good indicator of evaluating or seeing the profitability of a REIT, but the adjusted funds from operation is a bit better because when you own real estate, there's a lot of other costs that come or associated with running a real estate business. So for example, all your maintenance costs, those are not captured in the funds from operation. That's why you got to look at the adjusted funds from operations. When you're evaluating REITs, it's not just like black and white with other companies like Apple or Microsoft. You have to look and read between the lines, and you have to really understand how to value these businesses. And the core metric is AFFO. Okay, and so this is what I like to see all the way from 2012, all the way up here to 2021 and trailing here for this year. You're seeing that they're growing their adjusted funds from operation. All right, now let's take just a second and let's look at the Morningstar review of how Morningstar rates American Tower. There's a couple of things that I want to share with you here. First off, they list AMT as a narrow economic moat. This is not so bad. I mean, it's not a wide moat, but hey, we'll take it. There's a lot more competition when it comes to American Tower than the last REIT that I talked about with Digital Realty. Digital Realty, there's not as many incumbents or competition. With American Tower, there's quite a bit more competition. Okay, and so what are the bulls saying? I guess, what's interesting here, this is what I want to focus on. With American Tower, they're going to benefit from innovation and growth from 4G to 5G to 70G to a million G, whatever it is in the future, but also through acquisition. This is what really gets me excited is with the acquisition of CoreSite, they're diversifying their business and they're well positioned to grow their footprint when it comes to expanding into new markets. I really, really like that. Now, on the contrary, what the bears say is, yeah, going into 5G, this technology is incredibly expensive, right? There's a lot of upfront costs that come with that, but also on the flip side, acquiring CoreSite, they actually overpaid for it, right? They paid a premium for this business. So that's something where the bears are like, hey guys, great business, but you may have overpaid paid for it. So something to be aware of. And so when you compare American Tower with its peers, for example, Crown Castle, SBA, or Empire State Realty, if I were to pick, I really like Crown Castle. I think it's a great company as well. Crown Castle and American Tower are by far my favorite in the space. If I had to choose just one, obviously I would pick American Tower. I think it's a little bit better positioned, but I think Crown Castle is really, really a close second for me. Also a really, really great business. All right, now let's take a look at some of the fundamentals here. Let's take a look at the revenue growth and the net income growth and net margins. So this is something that's interesting. This is what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the revenue growth. I mean, the revenue in dollars, that's cool, yeah, but I want to look at the growth rates. So the growth rates, they're growing their revenue year over year, and in most cases, except for these 2 years, in double digits. So in the last 10 years, 8 of the last 10 years, they've grown their revenue in double digits. Absolutely incredible. The next thing that I want to look at is I want to look at the net margins here for their net income. Net margins every single year in double digits. So really, really good to see. I like seeing that because if that's happening, then guess what else is happening? This right here, their dividend per share is going to grow every single year. That's what I like to see as a dividend investor. All right, so that's historical. What's happened in the past? Well, what are they forecasted to do up through 2024? Well, the revenue growth is anticipated to slow in 2023, 2024. But as we looked here over the last 10 years, 8 out of the last 10 years, they've grown the revenue growth rate by percentage in the double digits. Real estate investing, you have to understand real estate is a long-term investment, okay? And so if you have a short-term time horizon, investing into real estate, you're probably not going to be satisfied with the result. You really have to think in decades. Net income, net margins, also still on path to be very, very strong. This is another thing that I really love looking at. Dividends per share. The dividend per share is anticipated and expected to grow. This is also really interesting. Dividend yield by percentage. This company demands a high valuation. That's what I meant earlier. If you can get this company, buy an American Tower when when the market is distressed and when the market price is down, that's obviously going to be the best option. Let's say, oh, duh, Jake. I mean, that's this with every company, but even more so when it comes to these high quality companies that generally you see a price reduction and then you see just like a V-shaped recovery. So when you can buy this company at a discount, it's a really, really great thing. All right, now let's take a look at the dividend metrics here in Seeking Alpha. So the current starting dividend yield, and bear in mind, folks, this is from the beginning of July here, so it may have changed when you're watching this. Just over a 2% dividend yield. So keep in mind, this is beating the S&P 500, okay? And we'll get more to that towards the end of the video, but this has a higher starting yield than the S&P 500. Pretty high payout ratio. This is part of how REITs function. You're going to have a higher payout ratio. This is what I'm talking about. Like, the dividend growth rate is amazing. This is, I mean, if they keep this up, I couldn't see why this wouldn't be a dividend aristocrat or a dividend king here in the future. All right, let's take a look at the current yield here. So the 4-year average is just under 2%. Now, this is what I was talking about. This company generally trades at a high valuation. And you're seeing here that the current starting yield is a little bit, it's better than it's been trading here during the pandemic, pre-pandemic. Like, this is actually historically not a bad valuation historically, but I think it could go down a little bit more. I think you could get a higher yield on cost here as the market continues to pull back this year. So yield on cost, let's take a look at this. This is what's really, really cool. If you would have bought AMT 10 years ago, you invested $1,000 10 years ago, your yield on cost is 8%. Isn't that incredible? In 10 years, you have an 8% yield on cost. And that is the snowball effect, everybody. This company is growing at such a fast rate, and it's rewarding shareholders with a growing dividend. And this is what gets me really excited about dividend investing and dividend growth. All right, let's take a look at the dividend CAGR here. All right, so over the last 3 years, it's at a 17%, 5 years, 18%. Get a load of this. 10 years, almost a 40% CAGR. This is absolutely incredible. So if you go, just as a friendly tip, everybody, if you're calculating future returns based off of historical returns, I would recommend not going with the 10-year on this case. I don't believe that they're going to be able to keep that. I mean, who knows? They could, maybe. But I wouldn't anticipate a 40% dividend CAGR going forward. So if you were to use a dividend calculator, I would not use this as your metric. I would probably use this or this. I would not use this. Okay. Now, looking at the dividend history, 10 years, respectable. Dividend estimates here from analysts, seeing that this company is only going to continue to grow. You look here, this anticipated or consensus that they're going to have a 5.75 dividend per share this year, next year, 6.56. And then in 2024, 7.5. I mean, just absolutely incredible. If you have a long-term time horizon, this is definitely a company that should be on your radar. All right, now let's take a look at the actual portfolio here that American Tower has. They're in 25 countries. They have, this is from 2021, 220,000. I think there are 221 now here in 2022. But you can see the different countries and different regions that they're in, right? North America, South America, Europe, Africa, India, and here in APAC. So really, really diversified across many different regions. And to break this up here, this is in 2022, as you can see here, the 221. You can see the percentage by country. So in the US, 43,000, and their next largest one, let's see if we can do this. Let's see if we can find it. Spain, Germany is their second largest. Nope, Brazil, and then Germany, it looks like. So pretty well diversified, if you ask me. When I think about growth, and I shared this on the last video here with Digital Realty Trust, the different growth markets, and actually I made a mistake here. Look, India is their largest here. Absolutely incredible. Wow. Okay, so the growth markets for me, I see India as a growth market. I see South America as a growth market. Africa, I don't think, like, Africa is definitely an emerging market, but I think it's going to take a couple decades before you see really, really rapid growth in Africa. I think you're going to continue to see growth in the US, EMEA, but really the growth is going to come from South America and here from India, China, other markets like that. So really interesting to see how diversified their business is. All right, now to just visualize this here for a second, let's go to their website. Let's take a look at their wireless coverage here in the United States. Holy cow. So yeah, it kind of reminds me of those T-Mobile and Verizon commercials, like best network in America, most cell, blah, blah, blah. Remember, you've all seen those Verizon and AT&T and T-Mobile, best coverage in America. So seemingly, they all have the best coverage in America. They all say the same thing. But yeah, anyways, American Tower, very, very well positioned here in the United States. Cell coverage over the overwhelming majority of the where the population lives here in the United States. All right, now, if we were to kind of look forward looking here with the evolution of 5G, this is what gets me excited about this business going forward is back in the early 2000s, the innovation, the technology was all centered around 2G. And then here during, the financial crisis in 2009, et cetera, then you have the rollout of 3G. And then here after the great financial crisis, you saw the rollout of 4G. And now we're seeing the rollout of 5G. And this is what's so exciting about this business is it's continually innovating. And that's what I see. That's why I see this as such a great buy and hold forever business, because there's constant innovation and there's a lot of competition, but a lot of these companies, they get the advantage of the new technologies that come out, and they all benefit from this. They don't benefit equally because not all of these companies are the same. I'm talking about the Crown Castles, the other, infrastructure REITs out there, right? Telecom REITs, etc. But what's interesting about this is if you look into the future, what is 6G going to look like? What is 7G going to look like? How is this going to grow in our lifetime, in your kids' lifetime? That's what gets me excited about this business. And once again, really quick, touching on the growth for American Tower. Yes, so the largest position is in India, then you have it in the United States, Germany, etc. But this is where you can see how the growth is, where the growth is going to come from in these other regions. I talked about in Brazil and these, South America. There's all of these other regions where you're going to see different growth. But here's one of the cool things that I wanted to show you. So there are different products that they have on the market is when you drive by and you see these different cell towers, there's 1 tenant, 2 tenant, and 3 tenant. The 1 tenant, they cash flow well, they generate a lot of revenue, but where they're seeing that the highest return, the highest margin is on the 3 tenant. So if you take a look at this, you see the 1 tenant, the tenant revenue, they're bringing in about 20,000, but the 3 tenant, they're bringing in 80,000. And so their gross margins, the percentage of their gross margins, 40% gross margin on single tenant, 74% gross margin on 2 tenant, and 83% on 3 tenant. And so the return on investment, you see how that scales with the 3 tenants. So when you're driving by the roads, so after you watch this video, you'll be more conscious when you drive by and you see these towers, look and see if they're 1, 2, or 3 tenant, and you can say, hey, guess what? Did you know because they're 2 tenants, they have a 13% return on investment versus a 1 tenant with a 3% return on investment? I can see myself doing that now with my wife. The next road trip that we go on, I'm going to point and say, hey, you see that? You want to hear something cool? That 3 tenant is producing 24% return on investment, whereas a single tenant is 3. I don't know. I'm nerdy like that. I don't know. There you go. You can sound really smart with your wife or your husband the next time you drive by a tower. All right, so you heard me say in the beginning of the video, this is a buy and hold forever. This slide, this explains it all. Here in the light blue tealish color, this is the 2022. This is the global smartphone data usage. Here in the United States, we were at 21%. In Germany, France, and Spain, 22%, et cetera, et cetera. But you look at this gray color. In gray, you can see the exponential growth in data usage and the demand, how that is only going to increase. Now, obviously, these are just projected growth rates, right? Or increase in rate and demand. But this is what gets me really excited. I don't think human beings, you and I don't think we're going to consume less data in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now. In fact, I think our expectations for fast, reliable, data network coverage, etc., is only going to increase. It's going to increase in our lives, and I truly believe in our kids' lives and our kids' kids' lives. I really believe that there's going to be a continued increase in demand as we get more connected as a civilization, as globalization continues. Now, globalization has been kind of under a lot of pressure right now for obvious reasons, but I believe as the world comes together, as we grow, as we become more profitable, as emerging markets start participating more in the global economy, I think you're only going to see an increase in demand. And American Tower is the company to meet that demand. So speaking of driving down the road and seeing that cell tower, let's take a look and see here. I am in Austin, Texas over here. So going over here towards Smithville, don't ask me why I picked Smithville, but you can see here this cell tower. All right. So when you're driving down the road, you're able to see this cell tower and it's right there. What is this one? Is that a single tenant? I think that's a single tenant right there. So they're getting a 3% return on that, give or take? I don't know. But yeah, so when you're driving by this and you see that, you can be like, hey, Ma, I invest into this company and they pay me a increasing dividend every year. There you go. Now it could be maybe another company like a Crown Castle or something. But yeah, that is what a tenant looks like from American Tower. So I mentioned at the beginning of the video that American Tower is growing organically, but they're also growing through acquisition. Most notably here recently with the acquisition of CoreSite, this data center REIT. This is a way that they're going to grow their revenue. They're going to grow their dividend. It's through acquisition. It's through organic growth. And I foresee, with economy of scales comes leverage, right? And as the world just evolves and we go through this, market cycle that we're going through, I think large companies like American Tower are going to be able to weather these recessions that we're going to see throughout our lifetime. And they're only going to grow and become better positioned for the future, given their economies of scale. So that's something to definitely be aware of when you're investing into a business. You want to make sure that there is a competitive moat, there is a need for their service, that they do have pricing power, all of that good stuff. This acquisition of CoreSite is really exciting because CoreSite, I could make an entire video on CoreSite, the business itself, and explain all the cool things that they're doing. But now, all of the cool things that CoreSite is doing, it now directly benefits American Tower. Now let's compare how American Tower has compared to the S&P 500. In order to do that, we're going to take a look at the total return. This is with the dividend reinvested. And as you can see, American Tower, yes, it's down over the last year, but it's doing better than the S&P 500. Now, bear in mind, you're getting a higher starting dividend yield than the S&P 500. But the icing on the cake is you're getting more capital appreciation and you're getting a higher dividend. It's absolutely a slam dunk. So let's take a look at the 3-year. The 3-year, they're pretty much neck and neck. Look at that. Like, that is incredible. 35.4 versus 35.28. Let's take a look at the last 5 years. 5 years, this is where you're seeing the breakout of American Tower. American Tower is performing year over year, has a higher CAGR than the S&P 500. Let's take a look at the last 10 years. Look at that. Last 10 years, just about 340% return, total return versus the 243 with the S&P 500. Now let's do one last comparison with VNQ. VNQ is just annihilating VNQ. VNQ is the purple down here. This is the total return. So yeah, you're getting a higher dividend with VNQ, but with American Tower, you're just getting the best of both worlds. And if you do want to visualize additional different companies in here, so for example, let's do Realty Income. You can compare multiple different companies. You can see Realty Income is 163 versus an American Tower. You can add additional comparisons here on Seeking Alpha with the total return, which that's what I think is the valuable thing here is the total return. And you can do other things here. But the reason why that's cool is you do need the premium version with Seeking Alpha. I had the marketing team at Seeking Alpha reach out to me and they said that they loved my channel, which I thought was really cool that they're watching my channel. I thought that was pretty cool actually. And they sent me a link that you guys can use if you want to sign up to Seeking Alpha Premium. There's a link in the description below. It's a 50% off the premium subscription from Seeking Alpha. I think they have a 2-week trial as well. You can do the 2-week free trial and you don't have to pay anything. But if you do want to sign up, you can use my link in the description below. It is an affiliate link, so I do benefit from it. But I see value in Seeking Alpha. I use it every single day, and I would never recommend anything that I didn't personally use myself. I've been on YouTube for like 3 years now, and I've had dozens and dozens, hundreds of different companies, reach out and say, hey, we want to sponsor your video. We got NFTs and crypto and all blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, dude, I'm a dividend channel. Like, what does my audience care about NFTs? I don't know. So, but I think, when it comes to that, huge fan of Seeking Alpha. If you want to try it out, there's a link in the description below. So yeah, everybody, this company, American Tower, is one of my favorite companies all around. It's probably my favorite REIT. If I had a long-term time horizon, this would be probably my largest holding. And I mentioned in the beginning of the video that I believe that every dividend investor could and should consider this company. The reason why is it really depends on the allocation, how much, what percentage or what weighting it holds in your portfolio. For example, with somebody with a short-term time horizon like myself, I have a much lower weighting in American Tower. Whereas if I had a 20-year time horizon, like I said, this would be one of my largest holdings. So I hope that this video was helpful. I hope that you learned something new. Hopefully this gives you a little bit of insight in how to research stocks, how to value them, different websites that you can use. And yeah, like I said, I hope that this video was helpful. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope everybody has a great week, and I'll catch everybody in next week's video.
You know what? I think we're gonna be friends. Can everyone say hi to my friend? That's crazy. I just wanted to say thanks. I'm glad you came along, partner.